All right, what's up, everybody? Good morning. I got a special guest with me. I got Zach Bollinger. Zach is as diehard of as an Orioles and Ravens fan, in case you can't tell from behind. Zach, appreciate you being here,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I know. Actually, I gotta get more Ravens stuff up there. The Orioles season's over, so I gotta make a little change to the background. But it's been good. Obviously, a little tough week to start, but it's past us. We're focused on the Titans now. Okay, Orioles season is past us. We're done with the losing. Steelers week is gone. New mindset.
There you go. I appreciate that because I feel like I needed that this morning because each morning feels like, oh, here we go again. But listen,
Yeah.
before we get into stuff, I want my audience to know I've been saying this for ever since I started this company. If you're betting on sports, find people that for a living are covering your favorite team.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
because the gambling advice, you can get that from all different types of places, but people are trying to sell you stuff. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you being on here because you're the first person. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out who I wanted to bring on here because I want my audience to know more about this Ravens Titans game from a gambling perspective. And even though
Yeah.
that's not the way you look at it, I've been telling people, screaming it from the mountaintop. Get your information from somebody like Zach, who's not biased when it comes to putting his money on the line. See what he says about the game. I always say find 2 to 3 people like this, have your own opinion, and then maybe listen to some handicappers because the handicappers it gets convoluted. So before we get into it, I want people to know your background. It's broadcast journalism. You went to Marshall University. You do podcasts with Ryan Ripken, and everything for you is just content, content, content. There's no
Oh
gambling,
yeah.
right? Like that's not your shtick.
Yeah, it's I think you put it perfectly. I think the best thing for even if you'd like to gamble on games is getting opinions from people who aren't gambling on the game because they're not going to be biased to, oh, but 3.5 is a really good line for this and stuff like that. They look at it as, yeah, I think the Ravens could win by this amount of, or they just love the game or looking at it as a perspective and not just, okay, can we cover 3.5? Does he get over 20 and a half, yards? And it's more just, okay, how do I think the game's going to go? And if if you agree with me, if you like what I'm saying, then kind of go off of that and see what you like.
No, because we're going to break it down from the coaches. Like, there's no coach that
Yeah,
goes into the game saying, "Hey, how can we cover the spread?" or "How do we keep the game
yeah.
under?" And listen, we watch the games for lots of different reasons.
Mm.
And frankly, I'm a little jealous of people like you that can still watch the games without having a financial rooting interest. So we're going to bring you on. We're going to do this once a week. We're going to do Ravens breakdown. And then, because everybody that's listening usually bets on the Ravens one way or the other,
Oh
so
yeah.
hopefully by getting your analysis, it'll help make people smarter. And yeah, you touched on it for a second. I just want to ask you one leading question about the Orioles, and then we'll put it to bed because I've heard so
Yeah.
many people say, yeah, I've listened to so many different things, and the one opinion I strongly disagree with, and I wanted to get your take on it, is that we should
Mm.
have done more at the deadline. That's always like if there was this magic pitcher that someone knows that could have
Yeah.
helicoptered in, I'd appreciate to know who that is. And then the first answer, well, it's Montgomery on Texas. We should have just got him. And I look at game one as that seventh, eighth, ninth inning, big moments at sports. It just didn't go our way.
Mm.
Did you finish the series by being like, oh, I can't believe we didn't do this or I can't believe we didn't do that?
No, I mean, like you said, there was, and I think the biggest reason for that is look who else was traded. I mean, Lucas Giolito, the guy, one of the guys people wanted, he was waived after a month. Aaron Savali didn't was okay at best for the Rays, not worth what they gave up. Michael Lorenzen went to the Phillies, threw the no hitter, and then didn't make the playoff roster. So it's Jordan Montgomery, like you said, is maybe the only guy that people are like, oh, that's the guy we should have gone after. That needs to be. He's been good. I mean, he's been decent. Is he the difference maker on the Orioles? No. This series would not have gone any differently, I think, if we had another pitcher that was available at the deadline, if we had made another move. We ran into an insanely hot Rangers team who was firing on all cylinders. And unfortunately, that's just how the playoffs work sometimes. So No, like you said, there was nothing you could really do at the deadline unless you were giving up the house for someone that wasn't available. So from the guys that were available, Mike Elias did what he could. I mean, Jack Flaherty, not the best, but it wasn't much worse than anyone else that we would have acquired.
Sometimes it's as simple as their best players were better than our best players. And
Yeah.
seventh, eighth, ninth inning in that game one, our best players just could not get the big hit. So
Yeah. I mean, going in, we knew their bullpen was their weakness, and it was okay, get to the bullpen and we can make something happen. And every time we got to the bullpen, something would start to happen, and then we would hit our way out of it, a double play, something. And it honestly was just one of those things where you just felt like, yeah, this is just not our series. It was I was in the stadium for game one, and I will say leaving, I did kind of have an eerie feeling of, ooh, that's the one we had to grab.
and that
And you kind of felt like it.
But so that feeling, let's go right into the Ravens because now I'm going to start to get depressed again. So
Yeah.
that feeling you have, that's why we want. So the gamblers have a million feelings throughout the game. They're all emotionally based about our own money. So let's get into this. So with that being said, anybody that bet the Ravens last week is so frustrated because not only did you lose? You didn't cover. And then if you did a tease, you might not have made that work. It was just not a good day to be a Ravens fan, a Ravens gambler.
And then you just watched all your points disappear as every receiver dropped the touchdown.
Right, fantasy, everything. So
just nothing.
Let's not go backwards because I feel like we did enough of that with the Orioles. I wanted to ask you two specific questions to get you started here with the Titans. My biggest fear for the Ravens offense, we'll start with that, is the Titans traditionally don't blitz a lot, and the Colts didn't blitz a lot. They seem to get pressure with four. Looked like we righted the ship the past couple of weeks against what seemed like more formidable fronts. What's your take here on the Titans' approach to the Ravens? How do you think they attack us when we have the ball, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah. So I was actually talking to one of my really good friends is also a diehard Titans fan. So me and him have been talking a lot about this game over the past week. And I think the biggest concern for the Titans is going to be keeping it close. So they don't want to get beat on a big play. They don't want this to get out of hand because I think the biggest thing the Ravens are going to do, especially early, is they're going to try to right the ship on the receivers. They're going to try to get quick completions, little things to kind of gain confidence. And I think at first the Titans are going to give that to them because I think they're more concerned with, okay, we'll let them, maybe go down the field a little bit, but we're going to try to hold them. And I think that's more of their mindset because Titans Ravens, this is going to be a gritty game, especially in London. I think their plan is, like you said, they don't attack. They're not going to be blitzing because their secondary isn't strong enough for them to blitz. They have to, And honestly, the biggest, it does stink for betting because it doesn't help, but Fulton, the corner for Tennessee, is having a lot of defensive pass interference issues. And we've seen how Zay Flowers can draw pass interference. So it'll be interesting when they're matched up to see what happens there. Sadly, again, if it's a 60-yard pass interference call that he gets grabbed on, doesn't really help with anything for yards. But I think the biggest thing for the Titans is going to be, okay, we can't get beat on a big play. They want the game to be as short as possible, and they're going to do the classic Titans, run the ball and play defense.
Now, how does that make you feel as the Ravens fan? If that's the game plan for the Titans, because my first thought as you said that was that I think it was the first drive of the season against the Texans when it felt like, hey, we're going down the field, and then Lamar threw the interception. To me, that seems like a sound analysis as far as how you would approach the Ravens, especially with the Titans personnel. How do you think the Ravens respond to that? Do you feel good about us going down the field for 9-10 plays, or are we going to kick 6 field goals?
So I think it's I think the Ravens, we saw last week actually, the Titans allowed their first 100-plus yard rush in, man, I think it goes back to pretty far through last season. So it's going to be, I think the Ravens are going to attack with the run. I think at the end of the day, it's still a John Harbaugh led team. They want to pound the rock, but I think they're going to do it more with Lamar Jackson. And I just from the way that Gus Edwards, they're going to pound it up the middle, but the Titans, their D line, they're going to be ready for the run. So I think getting Lamar in space is going to be their big, I guess, game plan, whether it's in the getting him outside of the pocket to pass, running it with him on some design quarterback runs. Because as we've seen through the first 5 weeks, the Ravens are most dominant on offense and firing on all cylinders when Lamar is controlling the ball, running and passing. I mean, he's had 4 rushing touchdowns already. We've seen how they love to use Zay Flowers to get the defense off of, reads by running him across the line of scrimmage and then cutting Lamar back opposite way against the grain. I think that's going to be a lot of what happens this week, especially after the wide receiver struggles last week. I think take a little pressure off them. It's in London, and that's where it's just anything could happen. So I think both teams are going to be more conservative than usual because it is just a different atmosphere of a game. It's a different feeling. I mean, they're playing at 9 a.m. their time, like our time. So it's interesting.
I think the Jeffrey Simmons on the line for the Titans, if we can run away from him as much as possible, it'll make me feel better. I'm very anxious about our ability to block the Titans. We'll see. So your thoughts are get the ball in the hands of these receivers quick, easy targets, pound the ball, don't make any mistakes. Let's get the hell out of there, 20-17, and then Ravens fans will be split because we won't cover, but we'll win, something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's Ravens Titans, and as much as I wish we could go in there and I could say, yep, we are so much the better team. We're going to go in there and win by 21. That's not how this matchup has worked over the years. Mike Vrabel was an incredible coach for the Titans, and he always has a way to keep that team in these types of games, and really in any type of game, because the talent on that Titans, especially on offense this year, hasn't been the greatest, but he's still finding ways.
So they're going to run a ton of play action on first down. The way the Titans,
100%,
right?
100%.
Because if they can't throw on first down, they'll never throw. Because So with that being said, the Ravens defense, who do we have to watch besides Hopkins? Because he doesn't. He's the type of receiver that doesn't make me super anxious because he's not very fast. I tend to feel like we struggle, although this defense has been great. I mean, it's been surprisingly, to me at least, I didn't expect it to be this good, especially in the secondary. Where are the Titans besides Henry and Hopkins? Those are 2 people that everybody know. Is there somebody else that we should keep our eye on for the Titans on offense?
The guy that scares me, I'll say there are 2, but the guy that mostly scares me is he won't get many touches, but Tajay Spears, the running back, he's their change of pace back. He'll only get about, I would say, 6-7 touches in the game, but he'll make one of them count. Every game he breaks one up.
Like the Warren, was it Warren on the Steelers last week? Is similar to that.
Yeah, he's a speed guy. He's just straight speed.
Okay.
So it's a complete change of pace from Henry. And it seems that they're getting him on the outside in the right situations, and he'll break 1 or 2 off for 15, 20 yards. And so it's not much, but it's one of those things where, okay, when he's in, we have to be aware that he is very dangerous in the open field and with the ball in his hands.
Who out of the front 7, because you watch a lot of guys, I tell people, if you're not watching the film of football, man, the only thing you can only evaluate so much. Besides Roquan in the middle, who is jumping out at you in that front 7 that would be the most responsible? If you had to pick somebody that's stuffing the run, is it Pierce? Is it Washington? Who's doing the most, if you had to say?
I think stuffing the run. Honestly, Pierce is always just a great nose tackle. He's gonna plug the run, but the guy who's just he's playing against his old team, a little extra, and he's just been probably our most disruptive force. Is Jadeveon Clowney has every time you look up, he can't finish sacks. I don't know what it is with him, but he can't finish sacks. But he is around the ball 24/7 in the backfield. And I think he is one of the key players in this game where if he can make a force, if he can be the force that he's been the first 5 weeks, that limits Tennessee tremendously.
So Dean Pease, Don, Martin Winkdale, sorry if I butchered that, but it was easier to identify what type of I prefer the Dean Pease type of defense.
Mm-hmm.
How would you best categorize this Mike Macdonald defense? It seems complicated to me.
It's a Swiss Army knife. It's a Swiss Army knife. You don't know what's happening.
Because that, to me, Kyle Hamilton defines it, right? Like you're like, what the hell position does he play? Is he our linebacker? Is he our pass rusher? Thought he was our safety.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound ridiculous, but it's not the same player, obviously, not same level at all. But it's almost when Tom Brady joked that he had it written on his wrist, find Ed Reed before every play. That's kind of what you have to do with Kyle Hamilton in this defense, because he's kind of the guy, like you said, it's okay, is he lining up at safety? Is he lining up at linebacker? Oh, is he coming off the edge? Where's he going? And that kind of shows a lot about, obviously, Mike Macdonald, incredible at disguising things. But like you said, he's kind of that guy that it revolves around him. Roquan's the leader. He's always going to get the stuff done. But, Kyle Hamilton's the guy that they can, he's dropping back into coverage and shutting down the tight end. 2 plays later, strip sack. And, he has that type of impact on a game.
Is there a hole in the defense? They seem to fill up the holes around the trade deadline if they need it. It seemed like getting Clowney and the way he's been playing. I know do you see them making a move at the deadline for anybody? And if they do, where do you see the biggest weakness?
I think, it's really funny because the Ravens are second in the league in sacks, but I think you need another pass rusher. And Eric DeCosta's very good he doesn't like free agency bidding wars. So if there's a guy at the deadline who's going to become a free agent that he would really like, i.e. a Roquan Smith, he would prefer to give up the second round pick, second, third round pick, and just avoid all the nonsense of free agency. You also get them for that season. So I could see him making a move I could see a guy like a Danielle Hunter in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that is a very high-end player that you're going to have to give up probably another second-round pick for. But if Eric DeCosta thinks that this is a year, I love our defense right now, and if you get another top-flight pass rusher, I think that Mike Macdonald will be doing cartwheels, up and down the hallway of the castle. He'll be so excited.
So we have the deadline. We still have a couple more weeks. We'll see how the next few weeks play out. I would say the last thing on my mind with this Ravens-Titans game, because the way I think we're seeing it in a similar way, but my main concern, and I've said this before the season started, so it's probably not the most popular opinion around here, but I was more of a Greg Roman supporter than anything else. I think that the quarterbacks all across the league are micromanaged because there's this tendency for older folks to think I'm the smartest guy in the room and I can just call the play. And once McVay was so successful with golf doing that, it's like, hey, let me just use a quarterback as a robot. And my fear, and I wanted to get your perspective on it, is Lamar is, and I hope it doesn't come off too degrading here, but I don't think his ability to lead and his ability to communicate holds us back. And when one bad thing goes one bad thing happens and it seems like we can't recover. And I go back to that 2019 season. I'll set you up this way, where
Mm,
Marshall Yonda was the leader of the Ravens. And it just
yeah.
feels like something is missing. And instead of doubling down on what Lamar wanted in this offseason to spread everything out, I wish we ran the ball 65 times. I know that that probably puts me like that Bills Patriots game a few years ago where he decided not to throw the ball.
Oh,
I just wish we would. I don't feel like he's reading the field incredibly well.
mm,
And then the receivers aren't in rhythm. And then that leads to the
yeah.
drops. I know I'm blaming him for everything. So feel free to
Yeah.
tell me I'm wrong. But
I think I think the biggest thing right now is kind of like you said, just the receivers. Nothing is in rhythm at the moment, it feels like. And so right now, 5 weeks in, it's weird because the offense shows flashes where you're like, oh, this is what we want. This is, we're moving up and down the field. We're keeping defenses on their toes. We're running misdirections. We're sticking with the run game, but running different stuff, play actions off of it. And then there are times where you're watching it, like you said, and you're like this, none of this made sense. Like there's no rhythm. We're running the wrong routes. We're, throwing the ball over there and the guy, ran somewhere else. It's like, okay. And I think right now, I'm I would give the offense a C plus, honestly, and even I guess scheme wise, but I don't want not give up on it or say it's not working because we've had so many injuries. Mark Andrews missed a game, OBJ missed 2 games, Rashad's missed games. So I want to give it a little bit more, but I do see where I am kind of like you. I love running the ball, and I think it's because I've grown up watching the Ravens, but I love establish the run.
the reason that that's my philosophy is I've listened to a lot of former offensive linemen talk about how much more fun they have run blocking versus
Mm-hmm.
pass blocking. So if you think of it through that prism and everything starts with the offensive line and your quarterback is unpredictable back there, and then you get blamed for
Mm-hmm.
the sacks. There was something about 2019 where it's like, we're going to get 5 yards every time we run the ball. I think the Eagles and the 49ers, the camaraderie on the offense stems from it's so much easier to run block. Go listen to an offensive lineman talk about the difference between run blocking and pass blocking.
Oh
Their
yeah.
eyes light up. So the identity with Marshall Yonda is, hey, we're going to run the freaking football. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what does Lamar want to do today? What does Lamar want to do? That's how
Yeah.
I view what we're doing. And it feels disingenuous. Feels like we're out of rhythm. And I hope I'm wrong about everything. You won't find I've been to the Super Bowls. I love the Ravens. It's just I don't know. Got a bad feeling right now about the offense. So I'll be
Yeah.
patient. Like you said, we can't go backwards and just say it's completely not working and go to something else. We knew there'd be a transition period. We'll find out a lot, I think, frankly, this week because this Titans team, they're gonna scheme. When you said that we're gonna have these 9-10 play drives, I'm just like, great. It's gonna be 17-15 or 19-16. I'll be stressing out all morning.
Actually, it's funny you bring up, long drives. It's not the Ravens, so this is for the Titans. A big stat that caught my eye is the Titans have had 8 drives this year of 10 plus plays that have ended in field goals. So the biggest thing, and this is what my diehard Titans fan friend was screaming from the mountaintop. He was like, our red zone offense needs to get it together. And that's where the Titans are struggling right now is they can't score in the red zone. Derrick Henry is not doing Derrick Henry things where it's, oh, we're within the 20, we're giving it to him 8 times, and okay, it's in the end zone no matter what. Teams are kind of starting to stuff Derrick Henry at the line. He's not looking like King Henry. And knock on wood, I hope this is not the game he decides that he wants to go off for 200. But I think that's going to dictate a big part of this game is if if the Ravens can handle Henry like they have recently, I think Roquan, Patrick Queen, that front seven, even like we said, Kyle Hamilton, is huge in the run game. I think if you contain Henry and you make Ryan Tannehill have to sit back and pass the ball, you beat the Tennessee
That's why they
Titans.
run all these trick plays. They let Henry throw the
Mm-hmm.
ball. Yeah, the
Yep.
Ravens only lose this game if they fall behind and let Tennessee
Mm-hmm.
play with confidence. And like you said, the game continues. If this game was just played in the backyard somewhere and there was no
Yeah.
pressure on anything, and there you remove the coaches, and our players are so much
Yeah.
better than theirs.
Yeah.
We should control the game. What's your outlook? So for put you on the spot here. I know it's the first time we're doing this, but what's the outlook for the rest of the season? Like going into the season, I'm sure Super Bowl is, that's the goal
Yeah.
around here.
Mm-hmm.
After evaluating the rest of the NFL, because even though I went on that little diatribe there about Lamar, I mentioned the Chiefs the Niners and the Eagles. Besides that, I'm not seeing a ton of great football all the way around. What's
The
your
AFC is as wide open as I've maybe ever seen it in my entire life because of the Patriots, but then the Chiefs. This might be the most wide open I've ever seen the AFC.
Have you changed any dramatic what I like to ask people usually a few weeks into the season is what did you change your mind on? What have you seen? Because a lot of times you got to see 10, 12 weeks before you can even know who's good at football. So I don't like making these big conclusions after the first month or so. But is there something that you thought going into the season, whether it was the Ravens or another team, that now
I will say Ravens related. Actually, I will say the biggest disappointment so far, and I think a lot of people say this is Rashad Bateman. I thought with Odell and Zay, and then obviously Mark Andrews, I was expecting Rashad to kind of get lost in the defense's mind, and he could start really making an impact. And now we've seen the drops, the missed time, stuff like that. So that would be the biggest, I guess, shock on the Ravens for me. I guess maybe disappointment from where I thought preseason would be. I think across the NFL, I don't think it's a shock because I thought they'd be good, but just how good they are. The San Francisco 49ers are so good at the game of football. Just everything they do. I mean, the way and like you said, they just run the ball and they are so good at it.
There's something to be said. I'm telling you, there's something to be said for being in a good. So I coached high school basketball. I hear this with Andy Reid all the time, where he puts in these like trick plays because it keeps the guys like entertained. And there's so much to be said for that, being in a good mood every day. And when you know you're going to run the football 30 to 40 times, it just makes everybody. Yeah, I feel like the 49ers. The Eagles have separated themselves. The Eagles seem to be not as sharp as the 49ers. But to your point, on the AFC side, it seems wide open to me. I mean, I wouldn't write off I feel like the Chargers, they started off and then nobody's talking about them. I think they'll beat Dallas this week. And then next thing you know, they'll be the next hot cup of tea for the week. But it is wide open. I also think that they don't practice, not to sound like the old man here, but they don't do training camp the way they used to. It just makes for a sloppier product from a gambling perspective, because I know this is, everybody listens gambles. So the reason I want to bring it back to that for 1 second, because Zach has the perspective of the truth about sports, which is, hey, these things can go in a million different ways. So when you're gambling, if you like playing blackjack or you like playing roulette or you like playing craps, that's fine. But if you think gambling is poker, you're making a big mistake, because in poker, you're in complete control. So if you have that ability and you think that you can outsmart people and play 4 times a week, you probably can. But if you think you can predict what 30 to 40, 50, 60, 70 grown men are going to do, it's very difficult. So the best advice when Zach comes on here, we're breaking down these Ravens games, the best advice I'm going to give you guys is, until you have a really strong feeling on a game, if you can limit how many games you're going to bet, and I know that's contrary to what Jeremy does, but Jeremy will even tell you, I bet too many games. Like, it's hard to win when you're betting 8, 9 games at a time. So did you ever get, did you ever get tempted gambling? Like, why don't you bet? Like, what happened to make you not?
So, we've talked, every once in a while I'll throw, $5-10 on a game if I'm just want some, a parlay to give me some reason to watch. Like last night, I knew it was going to be an ugly game, so I was like, okay, I'll throw $5 on something, and but I've seen like I've said before to you, I get so wrapped up in the game and I'm so focused already. I'm like, there's no way I can have monetary value on this as well.
So I was gonna say, so people don't know, you have a full-time job. This is the
Yeah,
content is where you would like to go, but the
yeah,
gambling is not part of it. It's never been part of it. Did you
yeah.
have a bad story? You have a family member or somebody that lost a lot of money,
No,
hurt you, or just
no. Honestly, it was just, I think a lot of it was, when I would have friends and they would gamble, is I would just root with their bets. And then, so I was just kind of, it was fun for me because it was like, oh, we're all celebrating and everyone's happy. And then it's like, oh, now everyone's really sad, but I didn't really lose money. So it's okay.
if I
So
could
it was,
capture this, and this should be like a public service announcement,
yeah,
vicariously live through your friends, be happy for them, and then be happy that you're not the one losing if they end up losing. There you go. That's
yeah,
gambling. I'll just put myself out of business because then
yeah,
nobody will bet
yeah.
anymore.
Well, you just got to get, everyone just needs one friend that,
Right.
they can just live through it. We just get the friend to watch.
That's awesome. No, but you know what? It's a different approach to enjoying sports. The Orioles this year made it really easy to not have to bet to watch every game and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It was so much fun, and yeah, look, everybody can enjoy sports a different way. It's a crazy world, and I said this last time I recorded. If we can still find a way in this part of the world to be able to talk about something that really doesn't matter, we'll continue
Yeah,
to do it for as long as we can. I
exactly.
really appreciate you doing this. Do me a
Of
favor.
course.
So I know that you do the podcast with Ryan Ripken. Is that twice a week?
Yeah, we do it twice a week live shows. There are videos and stuff that we'll come out with throughout the week. If you go follow me, Zach Founder 18 on Twitter,
That's what I was gonna say.
every single video link to any content I make, all of my thoughts. If I write anything, I'll link it on there. So if you want the one-stop shop to, you just want to see my content whenever it gets out, my Twitter is going to be the place to go.
Sweet. And then you'll do Ravens, Orioles, just kind of
Yeah, everything in between. I'll talk. Last night, I will say I was big on the Phillies. I was tweeting a lot about the Phillies game. So, it really depends on what's going on in the sports world that I'll be covering.
sweet. And we'll have you come on here once a week. We'll break
Yep.
down the Ravens. And hopefully it helps people, crystallize their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're gonna do. So hopefully people got a lot
Yeah.
out of it. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun. No, I'm excited about this.
Sweet. All right. Well, Zach, have a good rest of your day. Have a good weekend. Hope everybody has a good day. Jeremy's card will be out later this afternoon, and let's make some money. See you, Zach.
See you. Have a good